Hello, today I'd like to show you how to work a brioche purl 4-stitch decrease. This is the equivalent of the brioche 4-stitch decrease done on the knit side of the fabric, but we're going to do it on a purl pass. I am working a flat swatch here, but I most often use this decrease when I'm working in the round. So let's jump right in. I'm going to work a few stitches in regular brioche so that I am not working my decrease right at the edge of the fabric. So I'm just going to slip my selvage stitch and do a brioche purl, slip one yarn over, brioche purl, slip one yarn over, brioche purl, and slip one yarn over. So a thing to be aware of when you are working this decrease on the knit side, you would be working with 3 knit columns and the 2 purl columns in between. When we're doing it as a purl decrease, we're going to work with 3 purl columns and the 2 knit columns in between. So we're starting staggered 1 stitch from where we typically would for this decrease. So in order to do this, I'm going to bring my working yarn to the front, and I'm going to slip the first stitch purlwise and then slip the second stitch purlwise. Then I'm going to take a holder. I like to use a locking stitch marker, but you can use anything you have on hand, and place the next stitch onto that holder. We're going to take it off of the needles and hold it to the back of the work. Then I'm going to purl this next stitch. And now, just like we do in the knit decrease, we're going to start alternating passing stitches over from the right, then the left, then the right, then the left. So I'm going to pass this stitch that was the second stitch we slipped over the working stitch. Next, I'm going, and I'm making sure my holder doesn't come loose as I'm doing this. Next, I'm going to take this next stitch on my left needle and I'm going to slip it knitwise so that I can remount it on the left needle and slip it back purlwise. Then I'm going to take my working stitch and pass it to the left needle. Then I'm going to pass this stitch we just remounted over the working stitch. Okay. Now I'm going to take the working stitch and put it back on the right hand needle. Now this first stitch that we slipped, I am going to, gotta get both strands of yarn, pass them both over the working stitch. Now the only thing left is this stitch that we have on the holder. Now when you are working the knit decrease, you want to be very careful that we don't twist this stitch. For the purl decrease, we want to intentionally mount it reverse of how it would typically be mounted. So you want to put that on there with the left leg of the stitch in the front and the right leg in the back. And now I'm going to take my working stitch, put it back on the left hand needle, and then I'm going to pass this stitch from the holder over my working stitch and place the working stitch back on my right hand needle. And then I'm going to give it a little bit of a tug to tighten it up. So here I end up with these 2 knit columns, coming together on the right side of the fabric. And on the wrong side of the fabric, you can see I have a centered double decrease. So let's show this one more time. I'll work over a few stitches just to give us some space from where we practiced the last one. All right. So I did my slip-on yarn over, and I'm bringing that yarn to the front. Now I'm going to slip 2 stitches purlwise, grab my stitch marker, and place this stitch on the holder. One trick that I use to make sure I know how I'm mounting my stitches is that when I place a stitch on a stitch marker, I always insert that stitch marker like this from right to left. So then when I want to return it to my needle, if I want it mounted the same direction, I always put it back this way. If I want it mounted the other direction, I know I need to turn it around. So that helps me have some consistency to know I'm always doing it the same way. Now I'm going to purl that next stitch, pass the second slipped stitch over the working stitch. We're going to remount the next stitch on the left needle to change its orientation. Slip the knit stitch or the working stitch over to the left needle and pass the next stitch over. Then slip the working stitch back to the right hand needle. And again, pass this stitch over. Now I take my stitch from the holder and I'm going to turn it so that it's oriented opposite of how it was originally on the needle. Then I'm going to take my working stitch, put it onto the left hand needle, and pass the stitch from the holder over the working stitch. Return the working stitch to the right needle and tighten it up. Let's just work to the end of the row so that we can have an even fabric to take a look at. All right, so I finished my row, and you can see I have 2 decreases, one here and one here. On the right side, it looks like these 2 knit columns are coming together and ending. And on the wrong side, we see this centered decrease on both of those stitches. Now, if I had failed to mount the stitch twisted when I put the stitch from the holder back onto the needle, we would see here a twisted stitch, and my color A yarn would be crossing in front of this stitch on the center of my decrease. So it's important to get that stitch mounted correctly so that you have this nice smooth look on the wrong side of your fabric. I hope that this tutorial has made this technique a little bit clearer for you and that you enjoy using this new stitch in your future projects. Thank you for watching.